This is not a Chinese virus.
This is not an Italian virus.
Viruses do not have ethnicities, religion, sexuality, or gender.
But our community does. And if you hurt or threaten someone because of those things, you'll have a lot more to worry about than COVID-19. When you attack a member of our community because of their ethnicity, the color of their skin, or where you think someone is from,
then you have attacked us all.
Go ahead, Jay.
Hi, Clay. It's very nice to be here.
Yep. So, this is a really moving video you guys have done. Tell me the story behind this video.
So, whenever the shutdown started happening, February or March of last year, everybody was very concerned. And then we saw our former president starting to call it the China virus and the Kung flu. And pretty much everyone was fearful. And then the president was linking that fear to a specific country, a specific ethnicity. And a lot of people knew that that's a very dangerous mix, because we see hate incidents and hate crimes linked to what's happening in the news, whether it's 9/11 or a ballot proposition for marriage equality. We saw that this was really irresponsible. That's probably a polite word for it, for what the president was doing. And we knew that there would be an uptick in crime that would be targeting Asian people by his example. And so we knew at the DA's office that we needed to do something right away. And so Jeff Rosen, who's my boss, the elected district attorney of Santa Clara County, he said, let's do a public service announcement. And with the help of Sean Webby, who is a former award-winning journalist who now works in our office to help us with public communications, we got the idea to make that video. And we just put it out on our website, which does not get a lot of eyeballs. And but it started to get some attention, and it went viral, and it got picked up, particularly like on KTSF, and it got some national news. And that was very good, because at that point in time, we hadn't really started to see the surge in hate incidents that we're seeing now. So we wanted to get out in front of it to try to tamp it down. So all those people that you see in that video, they all are prosecutors. They all work in the DA's office, and they're not actors or anything like that. And that's the story of that video.
That's great. I mean, Santa Clara County is one of the largest county in the country in terms of GDP, and also has very high number of Asian Americans living in this county. So what is the Santa Clara County DA's office doing right now in terms of all the hate crimes or hate incidents happening in the county or maybe elsewhere?
Well, there's a lot of people, a lot of us in the office that are doing everything we can in terms of public outreach. Thank you for having me here, Clay, and Pat Tegens and all the people that put this panel together and the event. We're just really trying to send a message to the community that we have zero tolerance here. This is our home. This is everyone's home. This is not what Santa Clara County is about. It shouldn't be what our state or our country is about. And so the number one thing we're doing is condemning hate incidents and hate in the community and speaking out and being loud and clear as much as possible. The second thing that we're trying to do is to encourage people to take proactive steps, whether it's volunteering for a community organization, giving money to a group that's like Stop AAPI Hate or Hollaback, just get involved, and personal things like check in with your friends and neighbors and see how they're doing. And of course, we're doing what we always do, which is redoubling our efforts with all the police departments in the county. There's 13 major police agencies, and they don't work for us. We don't work for them, but we work together, and we're making sure that they have the appropriate training to work with the community because they're on the front line when it comes to hate crimes. So that's, I think almost a third or more than a third of Santa Clara County is Asian. I think 55% of the people of Santa Clara County were born outside the United States. It is a county of excellence, of intelligence, of wealth relative to other places, and yet in no way are we immune, of course, from all the problems that we're seeing elsewhere. But it's an amazing place to live that draws people from all over the world. So since this is our home, this is where we are supposed to be, it's especially incumbent on those of us in positions of some influence and power to make sure that everyone feels welcome and safe, because the ability to be safe is the ultimate human right, to be free from violence.
You mentioned that policing. I get a lot of questions from my friends and sometimes even family members asking me about, if I'm experiencing a hate crime as a victim or as a witness, during that moment, what should I do? Should I call the police? Should I walk away? What are your suggestions?
The first thing is be safe. The number one thing to tell everybody is protect yourself. If you feel that you're physically being threatened, get away. Avoid violence. Don't do anything that could lead to violence or increase violence. What's the saying? Don't be a hero. Like in that moment, the most important thing is for people to find a place of safety. That's first and foremost. Thankfully, most incidents of hate crime or hate incidents are not as heinous as what happened in Atlanta. It's things where intervention is probably something that can be done. So what I tell people is call the police immediately. Everybody has smartphones, call 911. If you're thinking, is this serious enough? It's offensive, but is it a crime? Don't worry about that. Call. And the dispatchers at 911 who take phone calls, they know it's serious. They're going to be glad that you called. To the extent it's possible, once people are in a place of safety, to take a video, I suppose that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. And then also, if there's an ability to intervene and it's safe, then I think we all have that responsibility. The word that my kids in school are learning is to be an upstander. We should be upstanders. And these are traumatic situations for people, and they're traumatic to witness. They're certainly traumatic to be targeted. But in intervention, hey, is everything okay? Hey, what's going on? Just as opposed to maybe intervening physically or going after the person. These are things that people who are more expert in that area than me, I've heard them talk about that.
That's great advice. The entire San Francisco Bay Area has a very high number of Asian American people, but we don't feel that a lot of Asian American people, when they become victims of a crime, they normally don't report to the police. So I want to really kind of emphasize the point here. If the police only receives maybe, say, 5 hate crimes reports, the police won't do anything. But if they receive 100, they will do something. So I think this is really important for us as the community to put pressure on the place, but also alert and remind everyone this is happening so the police and the DA's office can actually do something about it, right?
Absolutely. I think in recent history, the police are much better than they have been years past in terms of being dismissive of these types of situations. That's been the result of years and years and years of effort to enlighten law enforcement. My belief, based on doing this now for 26 years, is I don't run into police officers, and certainly not police chiefs, who think like, what's the big deal, or there's not really a problem here. No, everybody is saying, please call, please let people know about it. But the big thing that you said, Clay, about people underreporting crimes, I think that's a really big problem in the Asian American community. And I know that the Asian American community is not monolithic, and and by saying that, I'm not trying to assign blame. There can be many, many reasons why anyone doesn't want to call the police or make a report of something. First of all, who wants to be a victim, right? No one chooses that. No one wants that label. No one wants to feel the way it feels to be victimized. People may have had bad experiences with law enforcement in the past. People may have a very negative view of law enforcement based on what they're seeing in the media, based on their own experiences. Many people are fearful because of their immigration status. Maybe they're undocumented. They're afraid that if they make a report, will it lead to them being deported? And in Santa Clara County, it definitely will not. There's also, I'll share something that was discussed at a panel that I was able to attend today at lunch that was put on by a group called NAPIPA, which is the National Asian Pacific Islander Prosecutors Association, which is a fantastic group. And it was started in Santa Clara County DA's office a few years ago. And someone shared when they were raised, their mother said, "Hey, you're Chinese. You can take the bitterness. You can survive. You can suffer silently. That's what makes you tough." And that resonates with people from different cultures as well.
That sounds familiar.
So there may be an element of, okay, I'm just going to take this. And then another concept that someone mentioned, particularly for people who immigrated to this country, and that is that they almost, a friend of mine named Jing, who said, some people view bullying and hate incidents as an immigration tax. And I'd never heard that phrase before. And it's so profound. In other words, I'm just happy to be here. If I have to pay this cost to be here, so be it. And that's the last, and so maybe, and I heard that today, and I've just met you, and I heard about your background and your journey, and it just made me appreciate truly the courage that you've demonstrated to not sit silently by and to get involved and to say something and to do something. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Absolutely. But before turning to myself here, I definitely want to ask one question here, and this is on a lot of people's mind. When the DA's office like yours receive a police report on a hate crime, how hard is it for you guys to actually charge someone with hate crime? And what is the difference between a hate crime and a regular crime?
Those are great questions. So we want to prosecute hate crimes. We think it's very, very important to prosecute hate crimes, especially since they're underreported. For every hate crime, that's like the top of the pyramid. that's a crime, a hate crime that was solved, and the police brought it to us. So in the year 2020, we had 14 hate crimes in Santa Clara County, which is, to me, that's 14 too many, but that's not very many. How many hate incidents were there in Santa Clara County? I would hesitate to guess, but I would say thousands and thousands, right? So we want to prosecute hate crimes because prosecuting a hate crime sends a message that there's accountability. A hate crime is not just a crime against the victim, it's a crime against three. The first is the victim. The second is the community that victim is a part of, because it sends a message to that whole community, you're not welcome here, you don't belong. So they're a second victim, the whole community. And the United States, it's a crime against American values, a crime against the country. So I say a hate crime is a crime against three. So we want to prosecute hate crimes. But you're right, it's difficult to prosecute hate crimes, even once you overcome all the obstacles of people not reporting them, and then the police gathering the evidence and being solved. A hate crime is a crime that is committed in part because of hate or bias against a protected group. That's what a hate crime is. Hate doesn't need to be the only motivation, but it needs to be a substantial factor in why the crime was committed. So it is the only crime where we as prosecutors not only need to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt, all 12 unanimously, that the crime occurred and that this person that we've charged did the crime, but we have to prove their motive, that it was a biased motive. And we have to get into their head. And it is very, very rare for someone to just say, I did this crime because I hate Asians and I wanted to send a message to the Asian community, and that's why I did this crime. And thankfully, certainly in this area, it's rare for a person who has a swastika tattooed on their forehead or says, I'm in the Ku Klux Klan and I'm out terrorizing Black families. That's very, very rare. It would certainly be easier to prove motivation if you have a case like that. So to answer your question, Clay, it is hard because we need evidence, and it's typically circumstantial evidence, which can be just as good as direct evidence. I'm sure the lawyers in the room are kind of laughing because I sound like I'm giving a jury instruction now. But circumstantial evidence is what was said at the time the crime happened. Maybe the person does have tattoos. There's other evidence that can show motive for a crime. So, for example, we had a very disturbing crime a few weeks ago where a Filipino woman had just been dropped off at Diridon Caltrain station in downtown San Jose to take the train up to her job at Palo Alto Medical Foundation, where she's a nurse. So already she's a saint because she's working as a nurse during COVID. And she was on the phone with her boyfriend, and a man came up to her and said, "Fuck you, Asian," pardon my language, but said that, and immediately tackled her to the ground and was pulling her on the ground, and then made other really disgusting comments indicating it was a sexual assault. But it was a sexual assault against a person because she was Asian. So that's a case where we are going to prove that it was an attack that was done in part because of the ethnicity of the victim. So a hate incident is anything that's any action or behavior that is motivated by bias or hatred that doesn't rise to the level of a crime. We all know in this country we have the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and that allows reprehensible speech, that allows offensive speech, that allows speech that we disagree with, obviously. So a hate incident can be name-calling, insults, distributing hate material in public, putting hate symbols on your private property. People have seen people put swastikas in their driveway, and it's very difficult to deal with things like that because they fall under the First Amendment. But those things are called hate incidents. When when someone is walking down the street and some car drives by and someone yells, "Hey, fuck you, go back to where you came from." That's a hate incident. And I want people to feel comfortable reporting incidents like that to groups that they're involved in, but as well as to the police, because we need to fully understand how widespread these sorts of issues are. So that was a long answer about what hate incidents are and hate crimes. I hope that was helpful.
That's great. Thank you so much. Just a little bit about myself here and also my organization is doing. I came to this country 20-some years ago. I was born and raised in China from the countryside in Hunan, from a family of rice farmers in generations. We had very little. I was fortunate enough to be able to come to the States in 97 as an international student to attend law school. And then I became a lawyer. This year is my 21st year as a lawyer. I consider myself mostly a business lawyer. I never paid attention to politics. I was very grateful for all the opportunities I got in this country. But the last couple of years was really tough, and last year was very difficult because the former president started saying things like China virus. That really ticked me. And things kept happening. Last August, the president issued a presidential order banning the use of WeChat in this country. And WeChat happens to be the most used messenger app and social media app by all the Chinese Americans. So I decided to do something. I happen to be the lawyer good at suing people. So I kind of sued the president of the United States and we won the case. It really helped galvanize the Chinese American communities. And I actually really affirmed my belief in the rule of law in this country. A couple of my Chinese American friends and lawyers started talking what to do after the WeChat case is over. We were thinking about, maybe starting a new organization to help the Chinese American communities. 2 weeks ago, when the land shooting happened, and we really got together, we have to act right now. So we formed a new organization called the Chinese American Legal Defense Alliance, short for CALDA, C-A-L-D-A. And you can go to our website, caldausa.org, C-A-L-D-A, USA.org for more information. And you can also go to GoFundMe page to find CALDA to support us. And our goal and our single mission is actually sue people to help all the victims in racial discrimination and hatred crimes to get the maximum penalties for them in the court of law. I think we have a lot of people doing like media outreach to do politics and to do help with education, but there's no single organization who is helping the victims to represent those victims, to seek compensation and damages from them. So that's our single mission. We hope we can help. We only been in existence for 2 weeks, but we got a lot of increase already, not only from the victims of hate crimes. Another goal is to help the Chinese American professors being prosecuted by U.S. governments. I think the only reason they have been prosecuted is because they're Chinese Americans. They have been prosecuted only because they're the color of the skin. Not other types of professors have been prosecuted. So this is something we're very seriously concerned. We're hoping to get more support from our communities. We're actually providing legal assistance and representation to some of the victims in those cases. I think this is an effort requiring all help from all industries, all helps from all fields, from top to bottom. I think one presidential election and one lawsuit won't change anything. So it definitely needs everybody's involvement. If you can support us, great. If you can speak out, that's great. Just like things that Jay has mentioned, if you have witnessed or been a victim of any hate crime or hate incident, talk to the police, file a report, pressure those people in the government to do something. I think that's really will make change happen.
Clay, that's fantastic. Thank you for starting that organization. It's called CALDA, and the website is CALDAUS.org.
USA.org.
USA.org. There is a group, a wonderful organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center down in Montgomery, Alabama. They once sued a chapter of the Ku Klux Klan in Oregon and took over their headquarters and collected millions of dollars and helped put them out of business. So that was 30 years ago. I'm not aware of an organization that's focusing like you are on the Chinese community. So that's really excellent. Excellent. I saw that there were some comments in the chat, people